Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful today.
Nick's dream dashed, Ridge's realization of true love, and Brooke's water horror. Before Ridge Forrester discovers real love, Brooke Logan will experience some water phobia. There will be a lot going on the CBS soap opera since Nick Marone's dream will also be crushed. Taylor Hayes hopes to have communicated to Brooke that Ridge is taken during the week of July 28th to August 1st. Taylor will be worried about the likelihood of Brooke and Ridge getting back together during this trip to Italy, despite all of her blustering. Ridge and Brooke will undoubtedly experience some moments of bonding as a result of Eric Forrester's role as matchmaker. The future of Brooke and Ridge will undoubtedly be influenced by the charm of Naples. A fashion show will also take place, but Nick's priorities will be pleasure over business. Nick will plot a little and try his hardest to get Brooke out of Ridge's sphere of influence. When they go to Capri, Brooke will wind up on a boat with Ridge, but Nick will look for a boat too and persuade Brooke to sail with him next. Brooke will be caught off guard when Nick pops the question, but there are still more surprises in store. This could be when it goes down since according to BNB teasers, Brooke is going to have an accident. Will Brooke tumble off the boat while Ridge looks on in jealousy? In any case, Ridge will play rescuer when he sees a risky circumstance. Ridge should have a revelation about genuine love around the week of August 4th to 8th, since it appears that he will jump into the sea after Brooke and save her. When it comes to the lady Ridge is genuinely meant to be with, everything will fall into place. Ridge will finally understand everything Eric has been saying and come to the conclusion that Brooke is the one for him. When Brooke returns to Ridge, Nick will have to lick his wounds because his dream of getting back together with Brooke won't work out. But since Taylor truly believed Ridge would be by her side forever this time, she will be the one most devastated. Taylor seemed ready to snap at Ridge and question how he could have done this to her. John Finnegan will continue to examine Grace Buckingham's actions in relation to Liam Spencer and his incredible recovery after all of the Italy episodes. Finn is the best person to reveal Grace as a fraudster who allegedly fabricated the tumor and experimental process in order to obtain money. Given that Steffi Forrester would be temporarily departing Los Angeles with the children, Finn will benefit from devoting himself to this study. Brooke Logan finds herself thrust into terrifying aquatic peril, Ridge Forrester experiences a soul-shaking epiphany about the true north of his heart, and Nick Marone watches his most fervent dream shatter into irreparable pieces on the sparkling, treacherous waters of the Tyrrhenian Sea. This seismic shift begins not with a splash, but with the simmering anxieties of Taylor Hayes, who, despite her outward declarations of confidence and possessiveness over Ridge following their recent reunion, harbors a deep, gnawing dread as Brooke and Ridge embark on Eric Forrester's meticulously orchestrated business trip to Italy. Taylor's frantic attempts to warn Brooke off, to hammer home the finality of Ridge is taken, are laced with a fear she can barely conceal, a primal understanding that the potent combination of Eric's undeniable matchmaking zeal, the inherently romantic Italian setting, and the undeniable, gravitational pull of a shared history spanning lifetimes could easily reignite the dormant inferno between her ex-husband and his destiny. Eric, ever the puppet master fueled by an unwavering belief in the foundational bridge love story, deliberately engineers intimate moments for the estranged couple, throwing them together amidst the vibrant chaos of Naples, hoping the city's legendary enchantment will work its fabled magic, weaving spells of nostalgia and rekindled affection during shared meals overlooking the bay, strolls through historic piazzas, and the collaborative intensity of a high-stakes fashion event that serves as the ostensible reason for their presence. While the fashion show provides a glamorous backdrop, Nick Marone, Brooke's recent steadfast companion and hopeful future, finds his focus entirely consumed not by business, but by a desperate, burgeoning panic as he witnesses Brooke being drawn inexorably closer to Ridge's orbit under Eric's careful choreography and Italy's potent influence. Sensing the precarious ground shifting beneath his feet and his chance with Brooke slipping away like sand through his fingers, Nick swiftly shifts into scheming mode, determined to derail Eric's plan and reclaim Brooke's attention, his love for her morphing into a possessive urgency that clouds his judgment. The tension escalates dramatically during a planned boat excursion to the idyllic Isle of Capri, where Brooke and Ridge find themselves confined together on the sleek vessel, the azure water and breathtaking scenery creating an undeniably intimate atmosphere ripe for confessions or rekindled sparks, a scenario Nick views with mounting alarm, refusing to be sidelined. Nick commandeers his own boat, intercepting the journey with the desperate energy of a man fighting for his future, and through sheer force of will, and perhaps exploiting a moment of Brooke's lingering confusion or sympathy, he persuades her to abandon the shared trip with Ridge and join him instead for a private cruise, a bold move designed to isolate her from Ridge's influence and recapture their connection. Seizing this precarious moment alone with Brooke on the open water, surrounded by the stunning beauty of the Mediterranean but fueled by a fear of losing her forever, Nick throws caution to the wind and delivers a passionate, impulsive marriage proposal, a grand romantic gesture meant to solidify their bond and definitively close the door on Ridge. However, the proposal lands not with joyful acceptance, but with stunned disbelief on Brooke's part, catching her completely off guard amidst her own swirling, unresolved emotions about Ridge and the unexpected intensity of the Italy trip, leaving her speechless and conflicted, her hesitation a visible blow to Nick's hopes. Yet, this personal shock is merely the prelude to a far more visceral horror, for as Brooke grapples with Nick's sudden proposal, perhaps recoiling instinctively or moving unsteadily on the boat deck under the weight of emotional overload and the vessel's gentle rocking, a catastrophic accident occurs, a slip, a stumble, a lurch against the railing, sending Brooke tumbling violently overboard into the churning, deep blue sea below, a moment of sheer terror unfolding in horrifying slow motion. As she disappears beneath the waves, her life hanging in the balance amidst the vast, uncaring expanse of the ocean. This nightmare scenario, long hinted at in spoilers, plays out under the horrified gaze of Ridge, who, likely having followed their boat or remained nearby, perhaps driven by jealousy or an unshakable protective instinct, witnesses the entire horrifying sequence from his own vessel, seeing the woman he has loved, fought with, divorced, and married countless times, the mother of his child, the constant star in his chaotic emotional universe, vanish into the depths triggers a primal response that obliterates all other thoughts, calculations, or lingering resentments. Without a heartbeat of hesitation, driven by a love deeper than pride or past grievances, Ridge plunges into the treacherous water after her, a desperate, heroic figure cutting through the waves, his sole focus the imperative to reach Brooke and save her life, a physical manifestation of a bond that transcends reason or circumstance. His successful rescue, hauling a gasping, terrified Brooke back to safety, is more than just a dramatic event. It becomes the catalyst for a profound, life-altering epiphany that crystallizes within Ridge during the subsequent days of recovery and reflection, the week of August 4th to 8th, as the adrenaline fades and the magnitude of nearly losing her sinks in. In that heart-stopping moment of near tragedy, facing the visceral terror of her potential death, every argument Eric ever made about destiny, every flicker of unresolved feeling Ridge had suppressed, every memory of their epic love story crashes over him with the force of a tidal wave. The complex layers of anger, betrayal, and recent allegiance to Taylor are stripped away, revealing the bedrock truth. Brooke Logan is his person, his true love, his inescapable destiny. The pieces finally click irrevocably into place. Eric's wisdom resonates with undeniable clarity. The years of push and pull suddenly make sense as a testament to an enduring connection, and Ridge experiences a shattering realization that his attempts to build a forever with Taylor, however sincere in the moment, were ultimately a denial of his fundamental truth, a truth now laid bare by the searing clarity of nearly losing Brooke forever. This epiphany, born from terror and heroism, marks the definitive end of Tridge and the thunderous resurrection of Bridge, sealing Ridge's commitment to fight for Brooke with unwavering certainty. Consequently, Nick Marone's dream of reuniting with Brooke, the hope that propelled his impulsive proposal and his desperate scheming in Italy, is utterly and irrevocably dashed upon the rocks of Ridge's epiphany and Brooke's inevitable pullback towards the man who literally dove into the abyss to save her. Nick is left with nothing but the bitter ashes of rejection and the humiliating sting of his failed grand gesture. Forced to retreat and lick his profound wounds, his love story with Brooke seemingly concluded not with a whimper, but with the violent shock of Brooke's fall and her rescue by his rival. Yet, the deepest, most resonant devastation is reserved not for Nick, but for Taylor Hayes, who, despite her anxieties, truly believed she had finally secured her forever with Ridge, that this time their love would conquer the specter of Brooke. The news of Ridge's life-saving heroism and subsequent soul declaration for Brooke will hit Taylor with the force of a physical blow, shattering her hard-won confidence and sense of security, leaving her utterly heartbroken and consumed by a white-hot fury born of profound betrayal. Taylor, who fought so publicly and possessively for Ridge, will unleash her wrath upon him, demanding answers, raging against his perceived weakness, and questioning with searing pain how he could once again discard her and their shared future for the siren call of Brooke Logan, her devastation a stark counterpoint to Ridge and Brooke's reunification. Meanwhile, as the emotional fallout from the Italy cataclysm engulfs Los Angeles, providing a necessary distraction from his own personal turmoil, Dr. John Finnegan throws himself deeper into his investigation of the mysterious Grace Buckingham and her role in Liam Spencer's baffling recovery. Determined to uncover the truth, Finn meticulously pursues every lead, convinced Grace fabricated Liam's terminal brain tumor diagnosis and the subsequent experimental procedure purely for financial gain, exploiting the Spencer family's desperation. This dedicated pursuit serves as a crucial anchor for Finn, a professional mission offering solace and purpose while his wife, Steffy Forrester, makes the difficult decision to temporarily leave Los Angeles with their children, seeking distance from the chaotic aftermath of Sheila Carter's latest machinations and the brewing storm surrounding her parents' rekindled romance, allowing Finn to channel his energy into exposing Grace's potentially dangerous scam. Thus, the waters off Capri become more than just a scenic backdrop, they transform into a literal and metaphorical tempest, drowning Nick's hopes, nearly claiming Brooke's life, baptizing Ridge in the terrifying clarity of true love, and leaving Taylor adrift in a sea of betrayal. While back in LA, Finn navigates the murky depths of medical deception, ensuring the ripples from this Italian sojourn will continue to churn the lives of all involved for weeks to come. Nick sabotaged Brooke versus Taylor, Eric's warning. Eric Forrester is going to warn. Nick Marone's trip to Italy is fraught with difficulties. Additionally, Taylor Hayes and Brooke Logan's argument continues. The confrontation of Taylor Hayes. First, let's talk about Taylor and Brooke. Even though they were once buddies, they are now at odds over Ridge Forrester. In desperation, Taylor asked Ridge to marry him, and he accepted. Brooke continues to pursue the man she wants, even though Ridge is dedicated to her. Taylor saw Brooke throw herself at Ridge once more. This time, Taylor followed Brooke for a private altercation rather than interjecting. Brooke Logan's argument. Brooke was cornered and cautioned by Taylor. Brooke might, however, keep mentioning all the occasions she has previously met up with the seamstress. Ridge's attraction to Brooke is already making Taylor uneasy, but there isn't much she can do from California. Is Nick able to accept Taylor's suggestion to spy on Brooke? Or perhaps Taylor visits Italy in secret and eavesdrops on Ridge herself? Eric Forrester's threat. According to Monday, July 28 spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Eric will confront Nick. As Eric continues to try to get Ridge and Brooke back together, fans have been watching. It hasn't occurred yet, and Ridge is growing frustrated with his father's interference. Additionally, it has given Brooke optimism that she will be able to win Ridge back. It doesn't really matter if Ridge chooses to date Brooke or Taylor, what bothers me is the interference and disregard for both ladies. Marone, Nick sabotaged. Fans may witness Nick being sabotaged as well. Nick dislikes having instructions. Nick might therefore challenge Eric as a result of his warning or threat. Brooke might have to travel with Ridge if Eric has people sabotage Nick's plane. Nick is shown in Italy in the weekly preview footage, but Brooke is not with him. While Brooke is aboard Ridge's yacht, Nick attempts to get a boat to pursue her. Nick is adamant about winning Brooke's heart in spite of all the challenges that have been placed in his path. Nick has an engagement ring, and Brooke plunges into the ocean as the Italian adventure goes on. Could Nick and Taylor get together if Ridge does get back together? Brooke Logan, embodying a potent mix of wounded pride and unshakable determination, found herself cornered not in a boardroom but in the quiet shadows of the estate's gardens by Taylor Hayes, the woman whose fragile happiness she seemed destined to shatter once more. This latest clash, erupting from the embers of a friendship long scorched by their decades-long war over Ridge Forrester, was ignited by Brooke's brazen, almost primal, attempt to reclaim the man Taylor had just secured through a proposal born less of romantic certainty than of sheer, trembling desperation, a proposal Ridge, ever the pendulum swinging between these two magnetic forces, had accepted, binding himself to Taylor while simultaneously radiating an undeniable, almost gravitational pull towards Brooke that neither woman could ignore. Taylor, usually the voice of psychiatric reason now reduced to the raw nerves of a woman fighting for her future, had watched Brooke's latest overture, a performance blending vulnerability and seduction that Brooke had perfected over years, but unlike previous explosive interruptions, Taylor had chosen chilling silence, biding her time, her gaze tracking Brooke's movements with the intensity of a predator until the perfect, isolated moment arrived to unleash a torrent of warning and accusation. her voice low but vibrating with a fury barely contained, demanding Brooke cease her relentless campaign to dismantle Taylor's hard-won, precarious engagement. Brooke, the perennial Destiny's Child, met Taylor's fire not with contrition but with righteous justification, her eyes flashing with the conviction of a woman claiming her divine right. She would inevitably invoke the cyclical history, the countless reunions and reconciliations with Ridge that painted their connection as preordained, an undeniable force of nature that Taylor's ring and vows could never truly extinguish, arguing that her pursuit wasn't malice but the fulfillment of an inevitable, soul-deep bond, a narrative that struck directly at Taylor's deepest insecurity, the persistent, terrifying knowledge that Ridge's heart, despite his current commitment, held a Brooke-shaped space that could be activated with a single, well-placed Logan tear or touch. This confrontation, leaving Taylor emotionally battered and Brooke defiantly resolute, underscored the profound disrespect simmering beneath the surface of this eternal triangle, the constant meddling, the public battles, the reduction of both complex women to prizes in Ridge's indecisive arena, fueled a toxic dynamic where genuine love was often drowned out by the roar of possession and the sting of humiliation. Yet, trapped physically in California while Brooke prepared to whisk away to Italy with Nick Marone, Taylor felt the terrifying impotence of distance. Her engagement felt suddenly fragile, a sandcastle awaiting the Brooke-shaped tide, leading her mind down desperate paths. Could Nick, Brooke's current, fiercely protective beau, be turned into an unlikely ally? Could she, Taylor Hayes, respected psychiatrist, stoop to propositioning Nick to spy on Brooke in Italy, feeding her information from the front lines of this romantic battleground? Or, driven by a panic that overrode reason and professional decorum, would she secretly follow them, becoming a clandestine observer to the Italian idol, a ghost haunting the potential resurgence of Bridge? This very trip, intended as a romantic escape for Brooke and Nick, was already becoming ensnared in the Forrester family's manipulative web, as Eric Forrester, the patriarch whose benevolent facade masked a steely will when it came to his vision for Bridge, prepared to deliver a stark ultimatum to Nick Marone himself. Eric, observing the painful stalemate between his son Ridge and the woman Eric believed was his true destiny, Brooke, had grown increasingly frustrated with Ridge's stubborn adherence to his commitment to Taylor. Eric saw not love's triumph in Ridge's engagement, but another tragic delay in the epic saga he was convinced should culminate with Ridge and Brooke united. His paternal meddling, persistent attempts to sway Ridge back towards Brooke, had only succeeded in irritating Ridge and, more dangerously, inflaming Brooke's hope, convincing her that the Forrester patriarch's support was a divine sign her victory was imminent. This hope, Eric knew, could be easily extinguished by Brooke's prolonged absence in Italy with Nick. Thus, on the eve of their departure, Eric cornered Nick, the charming, self-made man who represented the most significant obstacle to Bridge's reunion. The spoilers promised a fierce confrontation. Eric's warning wouldn't be a polite suggestion but a thinly veiled threat, a declaration from the Forrester lion asserting dominance over his territory and his son's destiny. He would make it brutally clear that Nick's presence in Brooke's life, especially in the romantic context of Italy, was unacceptable interference in Eric's grand design. Eric might invoke family loyalty, Brooke's fragile state, or simply the weight of Forrester legacy, but the core message would be unmistakable: step aside, Nick Marone. Nick, however, was not a man accustomed to intimidation or obeying commands, especially from a patriarch whose vision conflicted so violently with Nick's own deep love for Brooke and his belief in their future. Eric's heavy-handed threat was less likely to induce retreat than to ignite Nick's defiant streak, prompting him to challenge Eric's authority and his right to dictate Brooke's heart. This clash of titanic wills set the stage for far more than harsh words. It whispered of ruthless consequences. Would Eric, the man who built an empire, truly stop at verbal warnings? The chilling possibility emerged: sabotage. To physically prevent Nick from accompanying Brooke, or to ensure their Italian sojourn was catastrophically interrupted. Could Eric, leveraging his vast resources and influence, orchestrate a mechanical failure grounding Nick's private plane? Or perhaps arrange a last-minute, unavoidable business emergency solely for Nick, forcing Brooke to travel to Italy alone, vulnerable and accessible, conveniently coinciding with Ridge's own presence at Forrester International? The weekly preview clip, a tantalizing glimpse into the chaos, confirmed the worst. Nick arrives in Italy, but Brooke is conspicuously absent from his side. The scene shifts to frantic action, Nick desperately trying to commandeer a boat, his face etched with urgency and anger, his gaze fixed on a watercraft carrying Brooke and Ridge. Eric's machinations, whether direct sabotage or masterful manipulation exploiting circumstances, had seemingly succeeded in separating the couple upon arrival, stranding Nick while Brooke drifted into the orbit of her greatest temptation. Thus, the Italian adventure, intended as a haven for new love, transforms into a pressure cooker of forced proximity, ancient desires, and external sabotage. Brooke, finding herself unexpectedly alone with Ridge amidst the breathtaking romance of Italy, is a woman primed for the pull of history and destiny. Ridge, freed momentarily from Taylor's immediate presence and perhaps swayed by the setting and his father's persistent narrative, might find his resolve weakening, the magnetic attraction to Brooke surging anew. The preview's ominous image of Brooke falling into the water is ripe with symbolism, a plunge into the deep, turbulent waters of her past with Ridge, perhaps a literal accident during a fraught encounter, or even a metaphor for succumbing to the undertow of their connection. Nick, meanwhile, embodies furious determination, thwarted at every turn. Eric's warning, the sabotage journey, Brooke's absence, he refuses to be sidelined. His frantic boat chase is the physical manifestation of his fight for Brooke, a refusal to let the Forresters dictate the terms of his relationship. The revelation of an engagement ring in his possession signifies his serious intent, a promise he's desperate to fulfill against overwhelming odds. The question hangs thick in the Mediterranean air: will the forced proximity, the romantic setting, the absence of Taylor's stabilizing presence, and the sheer weight of history lead to a bridge reunion, a passionate rekindling that sweeps away current commitments? If Brooke and Ridge do reunite in Italy, the seismic shockwaves will obliterate Taylor's fragile engagement and devastate Nick. Yet, destruction often breeds strange alliances. Could this mutual devastation, this shared experience of being brutally discarded by the objects of their all-consuming love, create an unexpected bond between Nick and Taylor? Thrown together in the wreckage of Bridge's resurgence, united by their pain, fury, and understanding of loving someone perpetually drawn to another, might they find solace, or even a spark of something more defiant, in each other? Eric's warning, intended solely to clear the path for his son, may have inadvertently set in motion a chain reaction of sabotage, confrontation, and potential realignment that could reshape the romantic landscape far beyond his initial, narrowly focused design. The eternal Brooke versus Taylor war, fueled by desperation and justification, Eric's patriarchal interference manifesting as threats and potential sabotage, and Nick's fierce resistance against the forces trying to dismantle his love, converge in Italy, promising not resolution, but an explosive escalation where hearts, loyalties, and futures hang perilously in the balance, all while the specter of Ridge Forrester's indecision casts its long, divisive shadow.